Aloha mai kako.
Aloha.
I first want to point out our gratitude to President Biden for visiting with us yesterday, but more importantly, for his pledge and his commitment to Lahaina and its people, including Earl Kukahiko, who spoke yesterday about losing 4 of their family's homes and reminding him that Lahaina was not for sale. I also would like to thank the President for describing how he would help with recovery, with rebuilding, and most importantly with respecting the culture and the town of Lahaina. I would also like to thank all the organizers, the volunteers, the chefs, the entertainers, and all of those who put together and welcoming us to their town of Lahaina. At this time, I would like to introduce our Chief of Police, John Pelletier.